how do you fix your perimeter defense so you don't run into these same issues next year?
Easy. I pay for Conley, and then I pay the tax bill because now Dwayne Wade is a co-owner. We know he's got the moolah, and then I trade Jordan Clarkson.
Let's move on to the other team that got knocked out in the West in the second round, the Utah Jazz, who, man, they're lucky the Sixers flamed out in such spectacular fashion, because otherwise basketball Twitter would be dunking all over these dudes just relentlessly. I mean,
they are, and it's unfair, but carry on. We'll take it.
Well, losing to a Kawhi-less Clippers team like that, that's just not a good look. And I know Rudy Gobert, I think, is catching a lot of slander. To some extent unfair. I mean, some of the same issues popped up in terms of when the Clippers went 5 out, and we've seen this in years past too. It does diminish his effectiveness. That said, he was the only good defender on the floor for the Jazz for most of that series. So I think he deserves some credit for having the Clippers not score every time down the floor.
What I find interesting here is how everyone seems to be pointing their finger at Gobert and not recognizing what you just said there. The fact that you also need to have solid perimeter defense initially. There is a first line of defense. You can't just say, well, screw that, Gobert has it. You can to some extent, especially in the regular season, but you need to be on your A game on both sides of the ball in the playoffs. What I think is fair to talk about when it comes to Gobert is nowadays, do you really need to have someone who is defensively oriented at the 5 and then who can solely build their resume and their reputation off of defense? Isn't it better to have someone who can just be a really good defensive rebounder, but who can also put a ton of points on the board? Our friend of the podcast, Shamit Dua, has spent a lot of time on Twitter arguing that point. I personally agree with his line of thinking, but at the same time, you also have to recognize this is an interior defender who might actually be the best center defender since Alonzo Mourning. I mean, maybe even Hakeem. I'm going that far. I think he's better than Ben Wallace. I mean, he's that good of a defender. So I get the contract, I get the need, I get that he's also one of the best rebounders. I also get that he's a good cleanup guy. There's a lot of things that he does that just goes unseen because everyone is like, oh, defense. That's the only thing. But you need to flank him with perimeter defenders as well. Otherwise, you're just exposing him. Every player needs help, whether that's offense, defense, whatever. So, yeah, I think he's catching more slack than he should. And I also, at the same time, agree that he was put in a situation here and there that did, I hate the word expose, so I'm not going to use that, but did point out certain issues with defensive bigs in the fact that they can move their feet, but they will never be as quick as guards.
Right. So these two questions go hand in hand. How do they fix their perimeter defense? One, because they already have $129.7 million on their books next year, guaranteed. The cap is supposed to come in around 112. So they are, not only are they over the cap, they are getting close to the luxury tax already.
Yeah.
And Mike Conley is a free agent.
Yeah.
And Mike Conley is not presumably going to take a minimum salary or like $5 million a year. Like, he's probably looking at least 20-ish million. So if you're Utah, knowing the success that you had in the regular season and knowing how you did win the first round of the playoffs, do you try to run this thing back? And how much do you spend on Conley? Or if not, how do you fix your perimeter defense so you don't run into these same issues next year?
Easy. I pay for Conley, and then I pay the tax bill because now Dwayne Wade is a co-owner. We know he's got the moolah. And then I trade Jordan Clarkson.
For who?
Someone better defensively. I'll figure out who, but not someone who is all offense and no defense. That's for damn sure.
Do you think that, Clarkson didn't start for them, so that still doesn't affect their Starting
that doesn't matter. Like it depends on what you get in return. I mean, if you find something that's good that works in your starting unit, you can put him in that group, and then Royce O'Neal can come off the bench. I mean, you can move stuff around. Like this isn't a video game where you have to get a 6-man back for a 6-man. I mean,
right.
Like if you find someone who is like super interested in Jordan Clarkson because their team has a sucky offense or whatever, but they have a surplus of defenders, yeah, I would look at that. Like if they could, honestly, if they could remake Royce O'Neal in a lab, like just duplicate him, and you could send Jordan Clarkson off for Royce O'Neal 2.0 and have 2 Royce O'Neals run around, I would do that in a heartbeat.
What if, let's say, Josh Richardson picks up his player option? Would you do Jordan Clarkson for Josh Richardson? Do you think that helps Utah to the extent they need?
It's an interesting deal. I'll give you that. I think it's a tough situation gauging where Josh Richardson is right now. I mean, he came into Dallas with a lot of expectations on him, and he completely whiffed. I mean, I mean, look, man, if he doesn't pick up his player option, I have no idea what he signs for this year. Like, are there teams that's even going to offer him the non-tax MLE? I don't know.
I'm sure there will be, but I don't know if it's a good investment.
Right, that's right. But like, if you're thinking that, then there are 30 teams out there that's thinking the same thing. So
there are probably 29 that are thinking that, and then one idiot is going to be like, oh, we like this guy.
Okay, but like, yeah, I like the ideology of it. Like, if you're getting Josh Richardson, like the Miami version, sure, that'd be great. But I don't know if you are. I like the overall ideology of it, of getting someone who is a bit of a two-way player, who isn't the player who they should get in return for Clarkson shouldn't be a complete offensive liability. So when I say defense, I don't mean someone who comes in with some sort of Tony Allen all-NBA defense reputation or something of that sort. They should just get someone in who is less dynamic offensively, but who's also a little bit better defensively. Who that is, that remains to be seen. We can actually workshop that at a later point, you and I, then we can do a video on it. I think there are some interesting names out there maybe, but I would just not see trading Jordan Clarkson as a huge loss. Mm-hmm. Especially if you get back.
Man of the year. Yeah. How dare you?
Oh yeah. I know. I feel so bad for removing or trading someone who won an award that's very closely attached to my heart. You're right. Yep.
I mean, I agree with you fundamentally that if they are going to make a change, I'd look at either Clarkson or Bogdanović. But I think they do need
Bogdanović. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about defensive liabilities in the starting lineup.
Yeah, but you still need scorers, and you still need someone who can really shoot the ball. I mean, and who has size. The thing is, when you can get your shot off like Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's like 6'4", being 6'8", and being able to get your shot up. And look, to his credit, he shot 46% from 3 in the playoffs.
I'm not saying they need to salary dump him, but like if we're looking at a more substantive, bringing in something that we're missing.
Okay, if you're getting someone in there who can defend at a higher level, which yes, you're right, that shouldn't be difficult because 99% of the league defends better than Bojan Bogdanović.
Right.
You still need that certain someone to be able to hit threes and not at a low volume. You need someone to come in there and have a lot of games where they put up like 15, 17 points per game. Because like he is more reliable offensively than Jordan Clarkson.
Mm-hmm. What if, I don't know if Sacramento would be interested, but something around Bogdanović for Harry B.
I like that. That would be interesting. I don't think they would be, but if the Jazz could go out and trade for Harrison Barnes without sacrificing like a ton, that would be interesting. That might actually be the thing that brings them to the finals next year. Assuming, of course, we don't see major movement around the NBA and next year we have some sort of super team. But that would be super, super interesting. Absolutely. That's a good name.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find these guys, because there are so many teams that are either like just pure title contention, they're not going to trade away these pieces. Like, you have to kind of look in that middle tier of, like, we hope to make the playoffs. Like, Kyle Anderson's another name that I would throw out there.
Let's stick with the Kings because they need a Bogdanović in return after making a mistake with the first one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe they're just confused and they think they're just getting Bojan back.
I wouldn't be shocked. All right, so Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson is actually interesting. Let me just look up him because one of the things that I noticed this year was just he was so much more assertive offensively. He was so much more willing to take threes, for example. And he's not old. Like, it feels like he's been in the league forever. And he isn't even 27. He is 27. He's not even 28 yet. He will be at the start of next season. So, like, he'll only be in his prime. But we saw so much more offensive improvement from him. You have 36% from three, 47 overall, 78 from the line, 12 points per game, almost 6 rebounds. He moves the ball beautifully. He's a solid defender. That is not a bad plan. The question is, would Memphis even be interested in any package that Jazz could offer? I don't think so, but Harry B and Kyle Anderson are great names to bring up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I think the Conley thing, they have to re-sign him just because they are so far over the cap. If he leaves, they don't have a good way to replace him. For sure. Like, you're probably not even going to have, like, at best you have a non-taxpayer mid-level, but you might not even have that. Like, you might be stuck at the taxpayer mid-level. But again, if, like, a Reggie Jackson is getting more than that, and Campaign, like, that might be your best hope to lure Campaign with, best case scenario, you get Campaign at the non-taxpayer mid-level, and Cam has had a great playoff run, no disrespect to him whatsoever. Having him as your starting point guard is very different than having him as your backup point guard. You could start Jordan Clarkson, but that's not going to make your defense any better. So, yeah, those are the two names. I agree with you.
There's one more name who I really think they need to trade. Derrick Favors.
Yeah, it just did not work out as they hoped.
No, but I mean, again, to go back to Schmidt's point, right? Like, you're paying like the non-tax MLE for a guy who's primarily defense, not much else. Like, what are you hoping for here? What are you paying for when you have Rudy Gobert?
Right.
Like, and you're only playing Favors like just 15 minutes in the regular season, 13 minutes in the playoffs. Yeah. Like, how does that make sense at all?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess, back when in his first stint in Utah, he started the 4 next to Gobert. So maybe they thought that they could just get back to that. But I think we saw
that wasn't good, Horford.
Though. Yeah, and we saw with like Horford and Embiid in Philly, like these two big lineups, unless both guys can do everything, but like neither Favors or Gobert is a 3-point shooter, so you're just clogging your spacing so badly on offense. Yeah, I mean, I get the sentimental bring him back home. We know what this guy provides, but yeah, you're totally right. Like, no team should be spending a full non-taxpayer mid-level on a backup center.
Right.
That's just a bad use of resources. When a guy like Bobby Portis is out there, he got the biannual, right? He got like $3 million.
This is what I'm saying. Like, for some reason, like, you can always find offensive bigs like in the bargain bin, and like teams have pivoted all the way into like paying for defensive bigs, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, it's the guys who can score that needs to get the minutes.
Or even like Nerlens Noel signed a 1-year $5 million deal.
Yeah, so he's one of the exceptions. He drastically outplayed that.
Yeah, right, of course. But like, wouldn't the Jazz have been better off?
Yeah, with that
getting Noel 1-year $5 million instead of Favors 3 years, close to 30.
So where can we send Favors? Is there a team that needs a starting center? Because you know what? No. But like, let's assume that he will take the role of starting center, primarily defense and rebounding. The team will have like wings and like proper wings. Honestly, Sacramento. Like,
I was about to say, if they lose Rashawn Holmes,
right? Exactly. Like, that would be interesting.
Maybe or Charlotte.
Charlotte? No.
They don't get Tice.
Keith and I have already agreed to that. That's happening.
But if they don't,
that would be interesting. But
or the Raptors, I guess. I don't really like that.
No, I mean, you brought up Harry Barnes. There's your salary match.
Yeah, well, if you do,
if you add in another piece, of course, but that's like you can do something there.
Yeah, like you could do Bogdanović and Favors for Barnes and Bagley.
I like. You know what? You know how I'm always down on Bagley going anywhere? The Jazz might actually be the place where I won't mind him going.
Yeah. I think Sacramento would want a little bit more. But
do the Jazz have their pick still?
I would think so.
If they send out like a top 20 protected first?
Oh, moving forward, you mean? Yeah. Or, I mean, they have the number 30 pick this year.
Yeah, hell. Why not?
Yeah. All right.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, I think so. Like Marvin this is interesting. Like I have had such a hard time coming up with a team where I think Marvin Bagley could find success. The Jazz, I think, could be one of them because he can shoot, and he is someone who can actually generate offense, and the Jazz could use it. So this is interesting to me. I like that one. They get Harrison Barnes, multi-defender, multiple positional defender. They have Bagley, who can work as a spot-up shooter. He can also work as a pick-and-roll guy. I like that one, Bryan.
Good.